And the Oscar goes to...
Sound of Metal.
Okay. Nope, it's Eurovision.
No, it didn't even get nominated. No, it didn't.
I don't know how to tell you this, Grant. It says Eurovision on my screen.
Sam, show me the picture.
It went away. It went away. There's no acceptance speech. I understand why you are...
No, he literally showed the card, and it said Sound of Metal.
I don't say it's that.
I am
don't know why you're
man.
in denial. You have to accept who won. Wow, this is it. It's kind of hard to believe that we've made it 3 episodes in. I know that sounds really novice. Shh.
Oh.
They don't know that yet. They don't know that yet.
Not yet.
Enough.
Not yet.
But yeah, this is the final episode of the original arc. We are your hosts. I am Sam.
I'm Grant.
And this is Private Screening Part 3.
Indeed.
/ the end of the beginning. We are coming at you live May 2nd. How many days? Like, Mother's Day is coming up, to put this into perspective. The official, I guess, frame of relevance for 2020 movies is over now that the Oscars have come to an end. But more on that later. First things first, I want to start this like we usually do. How have you been, Grant? I know you're kind of doing some exam stuff, and I kind of already asked about this, but just want to check in.
This is very true. As of this recording, I have 3 exams for my final spring semester for college, those being business software, calculus, and Christian heritage. In that order. So I have to do those 3, as well as a presentation for a leadership class that I'm a part of, and I'm doing studying on the side and prepping for those, and then once I finish heritage on Wednesday, I pack up and I go home.
You go home?
I go home.
All right. Well,
but yeah.
I'm
what about
kind
you,
of...
Sam? What about you? What's going on your end?
Not much. I'm still reeling from all the... Not reeling, because nothing really happened at the Oscars, but I'm still kind of thinking about it. In regards to actual school, I've already done 1 exam, but I have quite a few more to finish up. So we'll see how that goes. I'm in a good mood now that I've seen The Mitchells versus the Machines, but that's it.
I'm going to watch that one day. If
You
I can
will.
get through my movie poster.
Oh.
But it never ends.
It does. Well, I mean, it does, but not until what? 60-something more movies. Yeah, July.
Well, actually,
did you say July?
Well, I mean, I got 54 movies, and I'm doing movie number 55 tonight.
Okay. So you're past the halfway point.
Yeah, that's true. And in reality, I've already seen some of these. So if I was getting super desperate, I could just say every movie I've already seen, I'm just not going to rewatch. But I don't plan on doing that.
That's not how you do it.
I'm professional because I have standard.
Yes.
So.
Do you think you'll do another movie poster after this?
I wouldn't be opposed to doing another one, but I feel like I need to take a break.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want at least a year to kind of free range and just explore movies
just
that I want to
for
watch, instead of having to be set on another movie poster path for a 3rd year in a row.
Yeah.
So.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and YMS totally stole that from me, because he got one, because he saw me, and he's like, I want to do that. So,
Here we are.
That's very shameful.
Before we even posted a video on YouTube, they knew.
I know. No, he spied on me. He looked through my dorm window, and he's like, I'm going to take that.
But yeah, anyway, I figured we'd just dive right into this. This is probably good. This is probably going to be the least dense of the initial 3, the original 3, that Star Wars style that we do. Just because, one subject initially, there's just only one person who can talk about it, and then in regards to other things, it's just kind of more retrospective, looking forward to other things. The big thing is going to be something that a lot of people have probably already talked about, but it's still worth getting in. But yeah, I figured what better way to start off than by discussing everything that went down during the most hyped up events in the awards ceremony, at least until Derek Savage makes a comeback and destroys them, the Oscars.
Yes. Of course.
Of course. So, the Oscars. COVID happened, so this was mostly an online thing. The first thing that I kind of want to talk about was that the viewership actually went down. I think this year, along with most others, as of late, the Game Award viewership has actually gotten bigger than the Oscars.
Oh, wow.
And I guess my first question, I don't even think it's a question, but like just kind of why that is would be a good way to start off before we really get into what whappened.
Like, why do I think
like why like
down?
Yeah, like why I don't know, are those ratings, like are ratings for shows just like how many people watch them or like what they think of them?
To be honest, I'm not super well versed in that, so I'd have to do a little bit of research before I get something concrete.
Because in like popular media, like almost all the shows I watched like that involve ratings for a show, it just means like viewers, which I don't know why that's a rating, but maybe I'm just like inverted in my point of view. Right. Anyway, I guess I think the biggest reason that viewership was always going down, and I think that's because part of me thinks that's because people have just realized, hey, it's the Oscars. It's not really, especially considering we can just look it up in real time instead of watching it. It's not really something that's worth the time of day. I had massive respect, I guess, for pulling it through and kind of doing this again with COVID, but I don't know. I think the big reason might just be because of perspective. This is kind of something that has been affected badly by COVID, equal parts because they had to push back the dates, but also just because I think since people have had less of an opportunity to see most of the movies in question, they're just not interested.
Yeah, because, like, going into this Oscars, like, last year when I was first getting into, like, movies and all that, I did as much work as I could to see as many entries as possible before the awards. So, like, I was seeing 1917, Marriage Story, Irishman.
Joker.
I was, like, doing everything I can. Yes. But, like, this year, I didn't even know what the nominees were until they got announced. And then I just said, okay, I'm just going to, like, watch them later.
Isn't that how it usually works?
Sorta, but I mean, like...
Oh, I'm sorry. I misheard. I thought you were like, I didn't even know what the nominees were until they told me what the nominees were. But you meant like
exactly.
The movies. Excuse me. Yeah. I apologize.
You're good. You're good. But then, like, there are definitely some... I feel like I'm going to watch every Best Picture nominee one day, because I did that for last year's. Mm-hmm. Except for Ford v. Ferrari. I still haven't seen that, but...
All right.
So, but, like, going into it, I had only seen 2 nominees, and that's it. And they were both for, like, one category only. So...
Not multi-category. Well... Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry, you didn't see Mank. That was the big one that I kind of tuned into, that I heard about ahead of time, that was expected to get a nomination. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's it. I just think, like, the general lack of buzz with movies this year, just, like, in context of everything that's going on, kind of hurt people's hype for the Oscars nowadays. Because before, especially in kind of the mid-2010s, a la... you know, La La Land. A lot of people were kind of, like, more active about, like, watching things and seeing how they correlated to the Oscars, just because they had more leeway to do that. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And just, like, I don't know, the popularity of the Oscars, either because people see it as a joke or just because it's genuinely interesting for people to get together and kind of band together to see what happens with, like, the official Academy Awards, is just something that's, like, kind of gotten a little more downtrodden as it gets repetitive, but really more so now with just COVID.
Yeah.
And people don't
COVID
really care
did
as
a
much.
number.
Yeah.
So COVID really did a number on just, like, movie releases. So, like, I wasn't really sure which movies you could really say were going to be the ones that were going to get nominated.
Yeah, a lot of streaming service stuff, for example.
Exactly. Like, Best Picture, Nomadland, wasn't that Hulu exclusive or something?
It was a Hulu exclusive.
Yeah, so, like, that's what I'm saying. So...
And Mank was released on Netflix. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So, like, there was a lot more of just, like, streaming services taking over rather than just, like, simply released in theaters. So that was kind of part of the equation, I would think.
Yeah, it's extra weird, too, because you would have thought that with most of these nominees being on stream, at least with Best Picture, with most of these being on streaming services, you would have thought that people still would have seen them and would have related to the not related, but have like had a better understanding of like what was what with the Oscars. Yeah.
Right, like what would be deserving of what nominee, and then what should win what, and all that. So.
Yeah, and there was still an element of that like around like
fair.
internet, but like I guess
like
going off of personal experience, it was probably less prevalent.
Yeah, but like when we were live watching, like I didn't know any of the nominees, and I still got like most of my picks right.
Yeah, you did. What was your final score? It was like 16?
I think it was 15 out of 23.
Okay, that was close.
So something like that.
Yeah. I guess before we really get into the specifics, is this something that you see? I guess with like the general interest, do you think this is something that like is going to get better even as COVID disappears, or worse?
I think next year is definitely going to be one to watch to see like if COVID going away is really going to alter viewership and whatnot. Because I think theaters are going to start reopening, and then more movies will start pumping out. So then, the real question I think will be: are people going to like turn around and say, "Hey, like the Oscars are back, and I kind of want to watch it because I didn't get really see any of it last year"? So, or is this just going to be a thing where it's like, no, it's still there, and I don't really care, and so viewership still stays down?
And Derek Savage finally takes his rightful place.
Yes, as the fourth largest annual award show in Hollywood.
I think you mean first.
No, he said fourth. That's his goal, remember?
Yes, but we gotta aim high.
Don't conflate his goals, Sam. You don't know Derek.
You're right. This is a public apology to Derek Savage. I took a serious misstep here, and I was rash with my statements, and I will not put any sort of product in the following audio statement where you can't even see me. So yeah,
you can't even see the water bottle there. But I put the lawn sign up there.
Yeah, okay. I gotta stay focused. Going back to the Oscars, yes. I kind of hope they stay in that. I want to say I hope they change it up with like the venues, because there's nothing wrong with the auditorium, but I'm kind of bored with it. This is like such a like specific niche of the Oscars, but. I kind of hope, like, the place where they were at, like, with all those tables was rad, in my opinion, and I think it would be fun if, like, they kept on changing things up. Like, maybe one day...
Every now and then, yeah.
They'll be, I don't know, in space, and they'll
do it in, like,
watching...
an IKEA display room. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do it in the, like...
You don't know. It could happen.
There. It could.
It could absolutely happen.
Just a casual IKEA in the middle of Nevada, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. But I guess... before we get into the specifics of the Oscars, again, let's lean into this kind of by going off of our general experience and stance on the Oscars before we kind of evaluate what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I was... In the beginning, when I was but a lad, I only really knew about the Oscars because I watched animated movies, so I think the first time I paid attention to it was when Up won Best Animated Feature.
Mm-hmm.
And originally I thought that meant, Up was officially the best movie of 2009, according to these guys, but then it was like, oh no, it's just animated. And so then I tuned in again when
Toy Story
3 won, and then I stopped paying attention because I just didn't care because I was in elementary school. And then
no, but then Rango won.
I know, I tuned out at just the wrong... Well, I didn't really know what Rango was back then, so I don't think I would have particularly cared.
Ooh.
Which, bad move on my part. But anyway, I didn't pay attention, but then I did in the 2017/2016 Oscars when the whole La La Land thing happened, and then from there I was kind of hooked on like the overall category, like the range of categories, and kind of seeing what was different and what was consistent. And that's when I became kind of disillusioned with the sanctity of what was actually chosen, because come to find out, this isn't something that you should take seriously. The Oscars are notorious for not really being representative of the quality of film in the assorted year that they deal with.
Suicide Squad Best Makeup? Okay.
Why not? Brave Best Animated Feature of 2012? Sure, let's do it. So, and that's more subjective, but you know. I've come to respect and understand the fact that it's not something that should really be taken seriously, and that's just because
Right.
they don't take it seriously.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
So, for me speaking, I wasn't super into movies until pretty recently. So when it came to the Oscars, I didn't really care. It was funny though, because I have a bunch of funny stories where my mom would actually host Oscar parties at my house. And so she would invite a bunch of her friends over, and they'd do like viewing parties of the Oscars live. But I wasn't a part of that personally, except for 1 year. That's a funny story, but that's me getting off topic. I do remember I picked up a little bit around 2018, because I remember I wanted Avengers Infinity War to win Best Visual Effects, but then they gave it to First Man. And so it was like, oh, that's just...
Ooh, another Dennis film.
But then, next year, 2019, that's when I first started getting into movies, and that was like the first time I did a ballot and everything, and I sort of liked it. I felt like they were, there was a bit of padding, I would say, that I wasn't a huge fan of. But then I came into this one, and I think one of the things I liked the most about this year, one thing I liked was it was very straightforward. Like, aside from one specific moment I can think of, the entire show was basically, okay, award, commercial break, award, commercial break.
It was really fast, just like...
Yeah, it was. Like, it didn't really
snappy.
go over time that much. And aside from one little sideshow near the end, I can't really think of anything that they did that padded time, so I like
So I guess... in terms of like actual pacing and organization, this might have been the best, and you shouldn't really take this overall from my perspective, but going off of recent memory, just from 2017-ish to now, this might be like the most level-headed Oscars that I can think of. In terms of like, not in terms of
Like
what
pacing.
actually happened, because I wouldn't say that at all, but just out of like, general awareness of like keeping people who actually came to see awards entertained, because with COVID, the general stigma or just fear is that if you keep people in one place for too long, the risk of contraction increases over time exponentially. So I think that's what partially drove the faster pacing and lack of real padding in between awards.
Right.
Also, there wasn't a host.
Yeah, well, then again, to be fair, we haven't had a host for like 3 years now, so...
Yeah. That's fair.
I wonder who will be the first one to break this cycle.
I don't know.
Kanye. I don't know.
I would watch that.
I would. Kanye would
We
say
would
some
all
very
watch
funny things. He'd be spitting facts. He would.
He would.
He'd go up there.
You can't
grab
say
the
that he
microphone.
wouldn't.
And then he'd say Beyonce is the greatest of all time.
Queen Bee, that is.
Oh.
But yeah, just so in one respect, this was pretty well done in terms of how it was planned out. But on the other hand, it's still the Oscars. For those of you who like might not be aware as to why the Oscars aren't taken seriously, it's just that like the general awards that are given out by division are kind of skewered in a way to ensure like as many views as possible.
Right.
It's very apparent. So people get together. The official Academy Awards guys, they get together and they vote on the topics that they selected. So this means that they won't watch through all of the movies that could potentially fit into that category. They just kind of shuffle through a key few that are likely the most popular and kind of put them into the category. So if it was best
Like,
feature,
Sound of Metal could be like, that had really good sound editing. So it's like, okay, put that one in best sound. And then you could find another movie. It's like, okay, put that in screenplay. And then this guy had a really good performance. Put him in supporting actor. Stuff like that, essentially.
Yeah, the general criticism is just that they don't actually care enough to go through all of the movies of 2020 or something close to all of the movies to really get a good idea of what should have won. They just kind of do it in autopilot just to get something out that people will recognize and kind of
Yes.
admire. Which, like, granted, that's not always the case, and that's a very generalized viewpoint. But you'll see a lot of people, especially with A24 films. I'm sorry, I'm not doing a particularly good job explaining this. Part of it comes down to an advertising game too, like for your consideration. Like, isn't it true that you have to like nominate or submit something for the Academy to consider as well?
Yeah, if I understand it correctly, like kind of part of the whole Oscar award season and campaign and all that is like for your consideration.
Yeah.
Because like I think a very infamous example was like the Safety Brothers. They've made 2 really good films in Good Time and Uncut Gems. And both of those got like hardcore snubbed, but I think that's because like A24 doesn't really concern themselves with campaigning. Mm-hmm. But then on the opposite side of that spectrum, you have Disney. That's like, okay, Lion King 2019. We're gonna like make a for-year consideration for every category. And then it only gets nominated for visual effects.
It's worth mentioning that. Yeah, that's worth bringing up. So part of the cycle is just like the actual for-year consideration campaigning that's done.
Yes.
And so that's just inevitably going to create a cycle that just kind of favors the thing that will either likely get the most people attentive or the one that probably has the best chance of winning. So the general idea, what I'm saying is just like it's not always reflective of the year as a whole. It's just kind of the big things instead of more often than not the films or directors that might deserve that spotlight otherwise. They just don't get it.
Spotlight? Mm-hmm. That's a comedy joke.
I get it.
It's a funny word.
I
did.
I get it.
And then won Best Picture, even though it's kind of boring.
But yeah.
Kind of.
2021 Oscars, impacted by COVID, a lot more emphasis on dispersing it to streaming services. I watched it on ABC. Grant watched it.
I watched it on YouTube TV.
I hope you canceled your subscription.
I did, and I will
GG.
walk up to YouTube headquarters and demand my money back if they say no.
Would you demand your money back based off of how it was?
No, I would demand my money back because I canceled my subscription, but they said, well, we're going to take it anyways.
I
will
see.
say, though, like, from the 3 hours I had it, I had very, very, like, smooth runtime. Like, I didn't have any issues in regards to, like, buffering, because when we watched it, like...
I had some buffering, yeah.
Like, I was a couple of seconds ahead of you the whole time. And I had, like, no buffering issues or anything on YouTube TV. So, from what I got out of it, it was very solid. But I didn't really play around with it a lot.
Which, by the way...
I could, like, really talk about it.
I really respect... I thought you did this for a second, but I really respect the fact, and I appreciate the fact that you didn't try and, like, screw me up just by saying, like, oh, Sound of Metal won Best Picture, when really it wasn't, and having me guess that.
Well, no, I did that once. You remember?
Well, I mean...
Sort of. But, like, I told you what happened, and you didn't believe me.
Yeah, it was reversed. So,
anyways.
I guess that's where we'll start. What was your highlights? What was, like, your high moments, and what was your low moment during this Oscar season when we watched it?
I guess my high moment is getting... I think when I look back from my 2020 to 2021 ballot, I think my 2021 ballot was better, even though I did no preparation compared to everything I did for last year. So... I think there's just kind of a nice little catharsis to that.
Yep.
I'd say the low moment was probably fiddling with getting YouTube TV set up because, like, we were kind of running late and we started 20 minutes late. So, but then once we got all that set up, then it was smooth sailing from there. So.
Yeah, I think my low moment was when the one time they, like, stopped giving out the awards and started playing, like, a game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was the one moment near the end where I'm like, why did you have to pad out time?
Why are we doing this?
You were on the verge of greatness.
You were the chosen one. Yeah.
No.
2 Star Wars references. Nice.
In one.
Yeah, that was my low moment. The high moments, as Grant will know, I'm still... It doesn't matter, but I still can't believe this happened in the Academy Awards. He was 1 second ahead of me. You, I, you were
Can I explain
1
it?
or 2 seconds ahead of me, and you were like, "Oh, they name dropped Mrs. Brisby in Secret of Nim, which is a 1982 Don Bluth animated film that I love." And you were like, "Oh, they mentioned that," and I was like, I didn't believe him.
Hold up, did they just name drop The Secret of Nim?
What? No, you're gaslighting me.
Oh, they did. They did.
You're saying that.
They name dropped Secret of
You're
Nim.
not. They did not.
No, they did.
No,
they did.
didn't.
They did. They
No,
did.
You're lying.
No, I literally watched it. It literally said Miss Brisby in The Secret of Nim.
Oh yeah? I will be the judge of that.
So you've just heard why our nominees for animated shorts fell in love with animation. Me? I fell in love with animated movies when my mother took me to a movie theater for the very first time to see the animated movie called The Secret of Nim. I remember
What?
vividly the lead character was Mrs. Brisby, and she was a
Are you
fierce
serious?
mother
Hush.
determined to protect her children from a dangerous
Yeah, see, I was right.
Shh.
It was my first experience in seeing
Looks
a
like I was
strong
right,
woman at the
Sam.
center of
Really?
and that is the power of really great animation. It
That's
shows you as a
insane.
child that anything
Especially since we were arguing. So I thought he would have tried to trick me like that. So
Distraction.
yeah, I thought you were gonna go for that, but no, they actually ended up name dropping The Secret of Nim in the Academy Awards for the 2021 Oscar nominees. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, overall, just going about the general results. Best Picture, Nomadland. I'm guessing you don't really have too much of a say in that.
I haven't seen, again, like, aside from Best Animated Feature nominee Onward, Best Original Song nominee Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga, I have seen none of these nominees. A lot of them I plan on seeing in the future once I finish my movie poster, but as of this recording, I have not seen, like, any of these.
Yeah,
So,
that's fair. I can't really say that
yeah.
I escaped this either.
we got Mank at least.
Yeah, I got Mank in at least early on.
I watched Citizen Kane, though, recently, so now I can watch Mank properly.
Yes.
Even though
And then-
Citizen Kane is a soulless ripoff of Mank, so
This is true.
it is.
Yeah. Would you consider Mank to be a ripoff of Citizen Kane or vice versa?
Vice versa, because Citizen Kane came out a long time ago, and then
Yeah, okay.
Mank came out today. So obviously, Mank was the original.
The facts
idea.
just add up.
Yeah, even though the plot of Mank is the
Mank
making-
was real life. How can you say no to that?
Exactly. Mank was just the making of Citizen Kane, and the making of Citizen Kane became before Citizen Kane. So Mank came first.
Yeah.
See?
But I guess we don't really have a big stake in what won Best Picture. I was expecting. I don't even know what I was expecting. I was expecting Nomadland.
Yeah, you did say
I guess I was
Nomadland.
right.
Yeah, you were right. I thought
Yeah.
Judas and the Black Messiah was gonna pull away with it because I just heard like only positives with that movie. So I thought,
Yeah.
okay, like, and it got Best Supporting Actor with Daniel Kaluuya. So I'm like,
Which
okay.
is really weird.
really?
I still can't. Yeah, like
Oh yeah, you were saying something.
no,
about-
not the fact that he won. I'm glad that he won.
Yeah, of course, of
just
course.
like the fact that both Keith and Daniel, my guys, got nominated for Best Supporting Actor instead of like Best Lead.
Like, shouldn't
In context of the story, wouldn't it make more sense for like since it's in Keith's perspective, like for him to be the lead?
Well, it's interesting because, like, by definition, supporting actor and, like, lead actor, it's like the cast would have to say, okay, they're, like, the person in lead versus they're the guy that's, like, supporting or something.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, like, last year, it was the same situation when it came to supporting actor because both Al Pacino and Joe Pesci got nominated for supporting actor in The Irishman. But,
Yeah, but that was like Robert De Niro as the main.
yeah, that's
character,
fair though
right?
because I believe Robert De Niro didn't get nominated for best lead actor that year. But yeah, that is true.
Oh well, no, like I'm just saying
but
since
yeah,
Robert
like
De Niro
the
was
Irishman,
the main character,
Robert De
he was
Niro
like
is
the lead.
the main character.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know.
well, again, I haven't seen Judas and the Black Messiah, so I can't really put my input in there again. So
Okay, it's fine. You'll get there.
one day.
We will do it. Yeah, I can't say that there was that, again, because of COVID, just like not that big a stake or say or really that much interest in what won.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got it right. I don't really have much else to say about that, though.
Same, honestly.
We got Promising Young Women for original screenplay, which is pretty cool.
That was the only thing it won, though, right? Screenplay?
That's the only thing it won, yeah.
Huh. Still need to see that, so.
Yeah, and then another round won.
International film.
Yeah, international. And then did and the father. They're already planning to remake another round, which is baffling to me.
They're trying to outdo Sony for misuse of the term remaster or remaking. So, and they're putting up a fight.
Okay.
I mean, I think that is more outlandish than what Sony does with their business practices, but who am I to say?
The fact that they're resisting is respectable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's that. I know The Father got adapted screenplay. Is that because it's from a play? Like a stage play?
Maybe.
Last I checked, I think that's what it was.
Yes. Plus, they gave Anthony Hopkins Best Lead Actor with.
I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you who didn't know, the order for the final few categories usually goes for the final three. It'll be Best Lead Actress / Actor, and then the last one they always ended off on
Picture.
since the beginning of time is Best Picture.
Right.
Just like since that's the big one. This year, when it happened, they changed it up. Instead of doing Best Actors before Best Picture, they did it really weird and
It was
switched
Best
them
Picture,
up.
Best Actress, Best Actor.
Yeah.
And then they closed it.
When they got to Best Picture, we were both really confused because we didn't know if they were just like dropping Best Actors altogether. And so that happened, and then after we thought about it some more, we decided that it made sense because one of the nominees was none other than our cherished Chadwick Boseman.
Yes.
Which, am I saying that right? I don't want to.
I believe that is correct. Chadwick Boseman.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to
mispronounce it. We don't want to do it.
Yeah, me neither. No. But since he had died earlier before the Oscars due to cancer, we both assumed that to pay respects to this actor who was really good.
Yeah, they closed it
the
off
Oscars
by giving it to him like a posthumous.
Yeah, that's how they're going to end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I felt like that was pretty obvious.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah, and then they give it to Anthony Hopkins.
They give it to Anthony Hopkins. Yeah.
And I'm like,
which I'm sure he's good.
Yeah. Like again, I feel, but like that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like you'd want to pay respects to him because Anthony Hopkins could still try to win another one. So
yeah, I don't really know why they did that. Like, what do you think?
What was your reasoning, Academy?
Yeah, I want to hope that's not. I want to say that it wasn't done to lead people on.
Yeah, like a marketing ploy or something. That'd be awful.
I really hope that wasn't the case,
Yeah.
but. Like, this is the only time they've done that as of the time we are recording this.
Yes.
And I seriously don't know what else they were planning on the implications being.
Yeah, a lot of people, like, it was not well received because it's like, I feel like it really should have gone to Chadwick, but, I mean, I don't think that's to say Anthony Hopkins did a bad job because from what I've heard, he gave a really great performance in The Father, but...
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I'm sure he did.
Yeah, so... But I mean, I kind of felt like it was going to go to Chadwick.
Yeah, I really felt like the Oscars being the Oscars, like, okay, this is going to boost their approval or whatever.
It was easy money, but they said no.
That's so weird. Oh, man. Tragically. It's unfortunate.
Yes.
But yeah, I guess other than that, is there really anything else? There's Best Animated Feature. We were all expecting Soul, and to no one's surprise, Soul won.
Well, Soul got nominated for other stuff too, so I'm like, well, knowing the Academy, they're just going to say Soul. So.
Yeah, well, like the only other thing it won was Best Score, correct?
I know it won Animated Feature and Score. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it.
Mm-hmm. But that's interesting because, I mean, I haven't seen Soul, but wouldn't you say like Wolfwalkers was better?
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, Soul is Pixar, so I wasn't expecting Wolfwalkers to win at all.
Of course. You can't win against Pixar unless you're mainstream enough.
Yeah, no real big surprises.
Yeah,
I
that's
guess,
kind of it, really.
Like you said, the next year will really be the big teller on whether or not this is something that like either boosts the Oscar. I want to say their popularity is really shot now with the whole Chadwick thing.
Yeah.
Even though I want to believe that wasn't the intent.
I hope not. Come on.
But I guess I don't really have much of an interest in the Oscars next year.
I mean, I'll try to keep an eye out for movies and whatnot and try to do more preparation next year, but I will see. I can't say that I'm like really looking super forward, but that's not to say my interest is entirely dead.
Not too interested,
I'll put it back
see.
on the shelf and we wait. We wait.
For now, though, props to being the fastest Oscars in recent memory.
Yeah,
That's
keep that.
Interesting. Keep that.
Like, reduce the padding. That was good.
Yeah. How about no games next time?
Yeah, I mean, you could. That's always an option. People would like it,
right.
maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
No, that's
the
it.
Oscars.
That's the game.
That's the end.
The game for the Oscars is there is no game. You just do the awards.
Everyone wins.
Yeah. And then you give everyone goodie bags at the end. You just put money in it.
Or you mentioned Secret of Nim again, but anyway, that's the Oscars. I don't think we really need to spend more time on it. Everyone's kind of already talked about it, but that's our 2 cents.
Go.
So
yeah.
You want to know what else was kind of a scam about the Oscars?
Go
Beyond the
for it. I
fact
could
that
say a lot
they
of things.
snubbed Chadwick, beyond the fact that, they don't really take their own nominee picks that seriously, I think the biggest thing that made me mad about the 2021 Oscars was that King Kong was not nominated for at least Best Supporting Actor. I think the portrayal...
No, it's best visuals.
No, he's a real actor.
Oh, he's like they just have a trailer for him in Hollywood?
Yeah, for your consideration, Big Monkey. That's how I'm going to lead into the next topic of today. Kong versus Godzilla. I know it's technically Godzilla versus Kong, but I wanted to put Kong at the beginning of the title because Kong is better. But yeah,
he's a big Kong fan.
Yep.
Disclaimer.
I don't even watch all the King Kong movies. He's just objectively better than Godzilla. You know?
Okay, yeah, he just said it.
Fight me.
So, I don't really have a huge opinion on this, so I don't really see what the point of fighting is.
That's true.
But
that's fair. But yeah, this is a movie that we both saw, and I personally think that it's especially relevant for the running theme of the entertainment industry as affected by COVID-19, because
that's fair.
Kong versus Godzilla, for those of you who might not know, is the highest grossing. It had the biggest return profit for any movie that was released in theaters for during the COVID-19 period. Right now, I think the total revenue worldwide, the net gross was 400 in the 400 million somewhere. I do not have the exact number on me, but last I checked, it was 450. I might be a bit off, but I believe that's what it is. The Croods 2 was the highest grossing COVID-19 movie for a while, but it was unthroned. It was dethroned, which is it's in the top 3, but I'm kind of hung up over that.
If anything had to beat the Croods 2.
Yeah.
If anything had to beat the Croods 2, at least it's not like Tom and Jerry did it.
That's true. Tom and Jerry outgrossed, I think we talked about this, Raya and the Last Dragon, which I find kind of funny. Not the movie itself.
Oh.
But
yeah.
I guess to start...
This was a film that we watched.
It sure was. I guess I can kind of... Before we kind of go into what this movie is doing here on Earth, do you care to give your backgrounds, if you have any, with this movie or the Monsterverse?
Okay. I know full well that there is the Monsterverse, because it's comprised of the 2014 Godzilla.
That's right.
Kong Skull Island.
That's right.
sequel they made, like Godzilla King of Monsters, that came out
That's
in
right.
2019. And now apparently it culminates into this, which is a little weird because
Yep.
I don't really see how Kong fits into all this, but okay. So,
I think the reason it culminated to this was because the contract for the MonsterVerse, or like the plan, was not as like big as Marvel. Like they still wanted to capitalize off of like the idea of cinematic universes, but unlike DC, they weren't planning on dividing it in phases. I think they just wanted to have their one arc that led to Kong versus Godzilla,
okay.
and just seeing how that performed before they decided on whether or not they would continue. And right now, it looks like they are going to continue it.
Yeah.
Grant's favorite... Sorry?
Yeah, because Adam Wingard, the guy that
Your
made-
favorite director.
No, that's. I mean, if the joke is he's my favorite because I don't like him, I wouldn't necessarily say that actually.
Oh, yeah, no, of course not.
I just remember he made the 2017 Death Note movie, which was comically not good. So, I mean, he's got that going for him. But I mean, Kong v Godzilla was kind of a turnaround for me. So,
Yep.
like, I didn't hate this movie. The only, in terms of like MonsterVerse movies, I haven't seen any up to Kong versus Godzilla, but I did see the Peter Jackson King Kong.
Yep.
Well, that's a fine movie. I feel like you could trim it down a little bit, but
Yeah, isn't it 3 hours?
it's 3 hours, and like
Oh,
the
man.
first hour is just like human drama in New York, and like you could trim this down a bit. Like you don't really need it, but okay. And then
Yeah.
it's like island shenanigans for the next hour, 15 minutes, and then the third act's all in New York, and I like the third act, but I feel like there was a lot of trimming you could have done to make it a better experience. But that's not why we're here.
That is...
So.
it's worth
and then-
bringing up.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair, reference and all that. But then I came into Kong v Godzilla because, it was the next HBO Max streaming exclusive.
Yeah, this was like another one. This is part of like the recurring theme of like HBO Max exclusives.
Which, ironically, has dominated our entire 3 episodes, if you think about it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So-
thematically it makes sense. We had Tom and Jerry, then we had not Justice League,
No,
Justice
no.
League, and now we have this.
Say it right.
I think all of them have been noteworthy in kind of shaping people's viewpoints. But yeah, what else? Anything else for you?
I don't really have any other background, so
Yeah.
no.
All right.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, I mean, do you care about MonsterVerse spoilers?
Not necessarily, because I mean, I'm not really sure if I'm ever gonna go out of my way to watch any of those movies.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe one day. But I got
Alright.
a lot of other stuff planned at the moment.
Well, yeah, you got the MonsterVerse, as Grant said. 4 movies total right now. I personally liked the idea of a MonsterVerse at first, because I first tuned into this when Kong Skull Island released. Because my dad really likes these MonsterVerse movies, so
Okay.
he took me and my brother to see it, and we were in middle school, so it kind of scared us. But
Oh.
we had a good enough time, and then
Okay.
Dad and I, my father and I, we saw King of Monsters together, and we both liked that. Got the job done. Neither of us really hated it, so we both had a solid track record when it came to the MonsterVerse. By the time Kong versus Godzilla came out, so it was always kind of confirmed that we would see it. We were always kind of faintly interested in it, but I eventually came to the conclusion that by MonsterVerse, what they really mean is just Godzilla and Kong, since those
Yeah.
are the only ones people recognize, and it doesn't look like that trend is going to stop. Like they're talking about, instead of like anything else, like maybe Creature from 20,000 Phantoms, they're going to go like Son of Kong, etc.
Yeah. Okay.
So that does seem to be the game plan. So yeah, that's the context. This is another cinematic universe. I thought it was a lot better than Justice League, but I guess we can just sort of go for it. What did you think?
I mean, in kind of reference to a bunch of the more modern releases I've seen, it wasn't terrible. I mean, I would say there's a lot of issues with it. It certainly isn't perfect. It's Kong v Godzilla. I'm not sure what you're gonna expect from this, but like, I had some enjoyable stuff, even though I have a lot of stuff I would like critique. So, like, but overall, I don't think it was like awful. That was relatively short. Like, it was a fine movie for what it wanted to be.
I see.
Yes.
So I initially didn't like this at all. I rewatched it again once and kind of liked it a bit more. But Kong vs. Godzilla overall, to me, just, I don't know. In one sense, I got what I paid for, but the thing that I paid for was only there for
10 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I'm only really talking about the first 2 of 3 fights, because the last one was just kind of there and exhausting by that point.
I'd actually kind of disagree. Well,
really?
Are you saying the third? Wait, okay.
Oh, so
Well,
there's the
let's just make
there's
sure we're
the
getting
boat
this right.
fight, right?
There's the
That's
boat
the first
fight.
one. Right. That
And
one was
then-
pretty cool.
Yeah, and then are you saying the second fight was the one in Hong Kong?
The best one, yeah.
And then the third one was when they team up against Mechagodzilla?
Yeah, that's the worst
Okay,
one, I think.
yeah. No, I would sort of agree there. Like, because I think the best one was the second fight, easily. I like the visuals.
Absolutely.
So,
And
but
it's so
we're
much
getting
more
ahead of ourselves.
dynamic. Yeah, we're getting ahead
Yeah.
of ourselves. Where do you
So-
want to start?
I mean, I think the first thing I would want to say is that I was a little confused narratively, because even though I have no background with the MonsterVerse, I was wondering, okay,
I
how
guess
are they
you
going to
would be.
explain, like, how are they going to tie King Kong and Godzilla in the same universe? But my impression was it's just kind of a fact you have to accept that they did off screen. So I'm
Just like kind of how both of them got to that situation.
yeah, exactly. Like, that was just kind of my one issue, because I'm like, I can understand Kong, because, like, wasn't Skull Island, like, in the 70s, and it was, like, a totally different, like,
Yeah,
part of
Skull
the
Island was like took place during the Vietnam era, I think.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I can, like, buy, like, that being different for Kong, and, like, he could be off elsewhere. But then it's like, okay, no, now it's in modern times, and, like, nothing's really changed, so...
Yeah, I guess going into this, it would have been kind of confusing for you, because it opens up, like, spoilers, by the way, we're going to spoil Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh, absolutely.
It opens, like, he's just, I like the opening, actually. The reveal that, like, he's in captivity was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was neat. Like, I kind of like how they explained that with Kong. That was a neat little detail.
Yeah. The song that played was kind of cute, too. But, yeah, so I guess if it helps clear up any confusion, Kong lives on Skull Island, or he did.
Right.
In the 70s, Skull Island was Skull Island. There was natives and stuff, and Kong just did his thing. I think they took a huge jump in time to Kong versus Godzilla, and in Kong versus Godzilla, there is a giant hurricane that is just ravaging Skull Island, and I guess Kong is just still there, but all of the natives were killed off by the hurricane except this one girl who knows sign language.
Yeah, and, like, she plays a part in the plot with the humans in this movie, so...
Yeah, so Monarch, the Agent Shield of this universe, is holding Kong in this giant dome to protect him from the hurricane, and I guess they're just trying to keep him safe?
Right. I would assume... Well, because, like, as I understood, it was, like, the movie goes out of its way to explain, it's like, okay, historically speaking, Kong and Godzilla always have a rivalry, and they always fight each other, and they're, like, so insistent upon it.
I didn't get that.
Well, because I thought there was that whole thing where it's like, okay, so, like, here's, like, an Egyptian hieroglyph that shows them fighting, and now here's, like, an old, like, ancient Chinese, like, scroll that has, like, a painting of them. And so, like, I was always just kind of under the assumption that's like, okay, so that's how it works.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I thought
can see
the reason they kept him in the dome was it's like, okay, we have to keep him safe so Godzilla doesn't attack him, because I felt like the movie went out of its way to say, like, Kong couldn't, like, one-on-one Godzilla for some reason. I don't know.
Even though if we were being realistic about this, he could.
I mean,
I'm just saying.
I mean
In
that's
real
a whole
life-
other conversation, but
Kong would totally win.
I mean, it's kind of weird because like I feel like in that situation, wouldn't Godzilla have more advantages? Because couldn't he just shoot Kong with a nuclear blast?
No.
Why not? What's the counter?
Because any scientist, any person with rational thought would know. Not to say that you wouldn't know, but Kong, being a monkey, a big monkey, mind you, can just roll out of the way. He's more.
So he's more
quick
agile,
than
is what you're
Godzilla
saying.
is. Yeah, he's more agile.
Okay.
He has opposable thumbs. He can jump off of things.
Yeah, that is a fair point. He's got more agility, and like they do kind of make that a point because not only does it take a while for Godzilla to charge up the blast, but like in which like Kong can basically like stop because like he was choking Godzilla at one point. He's like, oh no, and so he like stops it.
My favorite part of this movie is during the Hong Kong fight.
Yeah, he throws the crane.
Kong is hiding behind a building while Godzilla's looking for him, and like he gets a crane, I think, and like throws it right next to Godzilla. So Godzilla turns his head, and Kong like gets the jump on him and starts beating him to a pulp.
Yes.
It was so funny.
That's
like my
comedy.
brother. Yeah, I turned to my brother in the theater while that was happening. We were both like, "What a sucker! He fell for the old throwing the crane to distract you trick." Oldest
Oh
thing
yes,
ever.
that is one of cinema's greatest techniques.
But yeah, you'll notice that we're talking about the fights of the movie, which is fair because that's what the movie is supposed to be.
Pretty
But
much.
mind you, we're only really talking about like a third of the movie because it's worth bringing up. Godzilla fans will probably be disappointed because Godzilla is barely in the movie, comparatively.
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
Yeah,
Between
he's
Kong
not
and Godzilla.
really in it that much. This is much more of a King Kong lore movie, I guess, than it is a Godzilla thing, which kind of feels weird because if this is the culmination of the MonsterVerse at this point in time, then you would have thought that it would have been more
Balance.
kind of balance between the two.
Yeah, because it's weird because like in the movie when they deal with the humans, it's like they think Godzilla is like turning against humanity. So it's like, okay, we gotta like rely on Kong and like he'll lead us to like this other dimension beneath the earth that they keep referencing in all the other movies.
They do?
I think so, because like I remember in like a review of the movie, they were like, there's like offhanded references in all other of the movies, because it's that like Hollow Earth dealio.
It's called Hollow Earth.
Yeah, and it's like, I think in like every other MonsterVerse movie up until now, like there's like one little offhand reference to it.
Maybe. You're probably right. I don't have the motivation to go back and find out.
Yeah.
That is one thing. You brought up a good point, and I want to kind of go into it more while I have the chance. So, I don't know. I just think it's kind of like, I don't know. One of the best things about the MCU is just like, despite the difference in directors, there's always like a consistent sense of style.
That's fair.
That kind of binds these movies together. I wouldn't say the same thing about the MonsterVerse because if you go back, 2014 Godzilla movie is a very Grady kind of grounded in reality monster movie. Most of it is filmed in kind of like POV shots from like a human's perspective.
Right.
With like shaky cam that kind of like pans up and like you can never really see the it's never like drawn out shots that kind of reel back and show the whole monster like it's a Marvel movie.
Right.
It's always kind of it was always kind of restricted to like the human's point of view and kind of like you would see monsters in the background destroying stuff, but it was like grounded in reality. You had like 2014 military technology doing the whole thing. It felt more realistic. Or as realistic as a giant monster movie could be. And the same can be said with Skull Island for the most part too, because that had a lot of 70s stuff. But then if you fast forward to Kong versus Godzilla, you have like stuff that makes no sense, like Hollow Earth. There are like spaceships now that go through dimensions.
Yeah.
And so from that angle, it doesn't really feel like a coherent universe, in my opinion, just because not only is like the technology development out of whack, but just like the general way it's kind of put together also feels a little weird.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fair. Mm-hmm. But I can't really comment because, again, I've only seen Kong v. Godzilla.
Yeah, just like, I feel, going from Godzilla 2014 to Kong versus Godzilla, it might be a little weird for you.
Yeah.
Because they won't really feel like the same movie, really.
So.
But yeah, we got Kong versus Godzilla, neither of which are in the movie at all, because most of it's actually about the humans.
Yeah, because there is a good amount of like human drama, I would say.
Yeah, and that stuff, it doesn't work. I'll just start that off right now by saying it. The series regular, like the dad character from Kong versus Godzilla to the girl from Stranger Things is not in the movie at all.
Oh, really?
He was kind of interesting in King of Monsters, but we don't really get to interact with him a lot. I don't know. I don't really have anything good to say about the rest of the movie. Like, it had 2 good fights, but everything else was just kind of dumb. And I don't mean like dumb like, it's obviously trying to be dumb, but I don't think it was in service of anything that was really worthwhile or entertaining for the most part, because the human stuff just didn't do it for me, and that was most of the movie.
Well, for me, I always thought like more of the human drama was just like connective tissue to try to explain, okay, here's why we're going to see this, here's how we explain this. Like, it was supposed to be the building blocks to get up to the big fight you paid money to see. So, I didn't have a lot of stake in it, and like, I'd say at its best, I was like, it's passable, but it really isn't something to invest your time in, and to be honest, like, you could probably just cut the movie to get all 3 fights, and that's it, and you probably wouldn't have a downgrade in your experience, to be honest.
One thing that I always kind of like to think about with this movie is, maybe, and I know they never would have done this, but maybe if you really wanted, I think one way to nail a concept like this would be to have no human characters really in the focus at all, and just kind of tell it through maybe Kong and Godzilla's perspective only, and have it be a silent movie.
Okay.
Where they are the lead actors.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That'd be
I don't know. I know that's not like something they would have done, but I don't know. That would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that could be a fun little direction to take the movie in, because in a way that does cut down on the human drama issue, because now you're much more focused on the actual like monsters themselves, and it's like a new interesting perspective to take them from. Because historically speaking, like, isn't that kind of always been the problem with like Godzilla movies? Like, there was the old 90s like Roland Emmerich movie, and like a huge problem that movie has is the human drama or something like that.
Yeah, and here I think it's just a symptom of the universe not being that well planned out at all. Yeah, just because, like, one, they never like set up Kong or Godzilla's relationship or build up to the fights before this movie, so they just had to like do it. And 2, since you have all of these different characters, you just kind of have to find an excuse to include them, which is why I think we got a lot of the padding that we did in that movie. But yeah, I just like, it feels like such a generic and like unremarkable comparison that everyone has made, but like everyone was seriously just like ping pong from place to place with like for no other reason than just like the transparent, oh, this needs to happen. The only one that I kind of liked was the guy with the podcast, the conspiracy theory guy.
Yeah, he was, out of all the human characters, I would say he was my favorite, because like, I feel like he had somewhat of a motive, and like, I would say he was responsible for opening up the can of worms that would eventually lead to Mechagodzilla. So, at least he had some stake. But
yeah, I think his actions kind of worked the most with everything that the movie was like, kind of like, I think his actions worked with the overall vibe of the movie, because in in a dumb fun flick about a giant monkey and a giant lizard punching each other, he really stood out as the character that had like the most reasonable motivation of like, yeah, I can see someone like this in the context of like this universe and the people that inhabit it wanting to go out of his way to like dismantle the evil company that will do this. Everyone else just kind of felt like, oh, I'm gonna tag along, I'm a quirky kid character and so am I, and I'm just gonna be here to do something. He was the only one that really felt like he had a place there.
Yeah, I would say that's fair, because he would have the only, like, driving force, because it's really divided up into two groups between him and, like, the two kids that tag along with him, and then everyone else was, like, in the monarch government.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So I was like, okay, we're gonna help Godzilla, King Kong.
And we're gonna bring this little girl with us, and for some reason Kong... Like, they just threw a lot of stuff at the wall and see what works. Like, this kind of goes from being a Kong versus Godzilla movie to a weird journey to the center of the earth thing where Kong just like falls through a portal and they waste like 30 or so minutes like, oh, here's what Kong's ancestry did, and here's a giant axe.
Yeah, and they gave him an axe for the fight that he sorta used.
Yeah,
but I feel like you didn't really have to do it, but okay. No,
I don't know.
I will.
Yeah, the movie tries very hard to like kind of have a lot of like juggled plot points and kind of dynamics to kind of make this feel like a grand experience, but what that really ends up being is just kind of a random Transformer write-in that is Mechagodzilla that only shows up and is killed in the end.
Yeah,
you have
Batman v Superman again.
Yeah, you have like a twist villain for no reason. You have another twist villain that like tags along with the Monarch guys, who was just in subsequent like it kind of just feels like they wrote in a lot of building blocks that weren't needed, did nothing with them, and then just kind of resolved them in one scene. Like, you have Mechagodzilla, and Mechagodzilla is awesome, but then he just shows up, they spill coffee or whiskey on a keyboard or whatever, and then he's just dead.
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so on one hand, yeah.
Very underdeveloped, I think, is what I would say.
So on one hand, you have like these two fun fights that are very well choreographed and very well thought out.
Yeah, and they have a lot of neat little ideas going for them with their environments.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, you just kind of have like a very underwhelming package in between everything. That just doesn't really work. Like I don't. If there was like, I was trying to put myself in the shoes of a kaiju fan who would like this, and I feel like I would just kind of be underwhelmed with what I ended up getting because, I don't. For one thing, it was a tie. Like neither of them.
Yeah,
lost.
Which was weird because wasn't the movie being like, oh, one will win or something like that?
Yeah, and I think the loophole with that was that Mechagodzilla ended up being the one that fell, but that kind of stood out to me as cheap.
That is a very cheap ploy because because they obviously want to make more movies, and like you can't already like ruin it by killing one of them right away. So.
But it's not like they can't bring them back to life because they've brought Godzilla back from the near dead in King of Monsters, and then like they used the spaceship as a defibrillator and brought Kong back to life in this very movie too. So
yeah, like
I don't think it would have been a good alternative, but you could have killed one of them off.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to like kill one and then like have a twist like in a future movie be like they're back from the dead, and then like you could set up another fight with new circumstances. Like don't let death be a factor when it comes to the fight. Like kind of let it be this whole narrative to see like, okay, who's gonna win this time?
Yeah.
And then like you keep making a franchise, and like every now and then they keep running into each other and they keep fighting. So.
Yeah, it's just like it's basically cool fights that you would expect and appreciate tackled together with static.
Yeah. I think that is fair. That is very fair.
The human characters, especially the Monarch ones, are just really just
White
unremarkable
noise.
in a frustrating way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they seriously did not try. And I'm not saying, like, they didn't try, like, in, like, the same vein, like, oh, there are no people in Jurassic World. Like, they really just, like, had lines that they read out like robots before just going to another place and not doing anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Except the one guy.
The one guy.
Yeah, that one guy. I think the reason I really liked that one guy who did the podcast, I forgot his name, I'm sorry. But the one guy, you know him when you see him. My favorite thing about that was I thought he was especially interesting in context of the movie because he was the only one whose character we kind of got to figure out for ourselves instead of having the whole thing told to us. Like, he still, like, lets it slip in an exposition-y way that, like, he lost his wife. But
Yeah.
At the same time, like, the movie opens with, like, you observing how smart he is just by, like, tricking one guy who handles security to leave by annoying him before, like, taking over the computer and doing what he needs to do while he's gone. It's like, oh, that was...
Yeah, like, actually
cool
characterizing him and showing it through a visual medium rather than having to verbally explain to the audience, okay, here's his skill set, trust us.
Yeah, that's how he works. So from there, like, getting to, like, consistently see him, like, navigating security and moving around, I thought that was interesting. That was, like, the most interesting thing from a human front.
Yes, I would agree with you there. I think he was definitely
everything else,
a stand-up character, but
everything else was just kind of
blah.
blatantly especially with, like, I think the best example is just, like, the girl that can't speak being there for the sake of just, like, acting as a communicator between Kong.
Yes.
So overall, anything else?
I mean, it's kind of everything I got. It's a bit of a shame because it's been a while since I've seen Kong v Godzilla, so...
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess
it had
if
good
you
effects.
I'd say so. And again, those two fights, really good.
You got two solid fights in this movie. That's fair enough. So, but that's kind of it.
Yeah, if you like kaiju movies, I think you'll like this more than me. There's definitely a lot more to enjoy here and point out than there would be in a Transformers movie, if that makes sense. So, like, it's still not especially good, but it's a little higher up on the litmus test of, like, lazy blockbusters.
All this. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it actually felt like they really had a stronger idea of what it wanted to be and ran with it without wasting too much time. Which isn't to say that it's good. I don't think that's the case at all. But I would like to give a shout out to, like, what they managed to get done with the fights and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, final rating for you? For me, it's
I gave it a 2.5 out of 5, I'd say. So, pretty standard, average movie. But it's got good fights, so it's not a bad experience.
Yeah. That's fair.
So.
I won't argue with that. For me, I really didn't like... I had a headache or something, and I wasn't in a good mood after Kong vs. Godzilla the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
I didn't like it at all the first time I saw it, but then I saw it again and liked it a little more. So I think it's bouncing between a 3 or 4 in my head, but I'm leaving it at a 4 for now.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, so...
But yeah, hashtag release the Bluster Kong cut.
Yes, that was the first big movie that we saw.
That was the big one. The second one only Grant has seen.
Yes, so
but
this is a new thing where I'm going to be talking for like...
about.
I'm going to talk for like 20 minutes and explain everything.
I'm going to ask the occasional question.
Only I saw this film between the two of us, so... It is Mortal Kombat. I like that.
You didn't scream it.
Come again?
You didn't scream it.
No, because
Mortal Kombat.
No, it's funny because in the original '90s Mortal Kombat, one of my favorite things that I've seen from the clips of that movie is how Raiden says Mortal Kombat. Because his actor's like Mortal Kombat. It's just
my name is Andrew from Michigan.
Yes, he has a very funny voice in that movie. So, but
Right.
So I watched Mortal Kombat by myself, and it wasn't that good. I mean...
Oh, no!
I mean, the viewing
A video
experience...
game movie wasn't that good?
The viewing experience, like, I wasn't miserable, but, like, when I look at it as a movie, I wouldn't really say it was that good.
Yeah, that is kind of how... Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Kind of like Sonic, but a bit worse in my opinion.
Okay. So I have never played a Mortal Kombat game, I guess, so I don't have a strong attachment to it. Is this one of those things where it picks up after the plot line of a game, or is this just like a played straight reboot?
Okay. To my understanding, this is its own unique thing set within the Mortal Kombat universe.
Okay.
To give history, the only Mortal Kombat game I've played is 11, the newest one, so I'm a very, like, casual MK fan.
Yep.
So,
I know how you play it and stuff. I know what the general gist is, but...
Yeah, like, I think the gameplay of MK11 is really solid because NetherRealm knows how to make good fighting mechanics, but the story mode in that game is very jumbled because, like, it's this whole time travel plot line that's just all over the place. Because I think a problem with the Mortal Kombat story is that there's just way too many characters with, like, different levels of importance. So, like, you have to have a story where, like, Johnny Cage and all, like, these side human characters have to share the same screen with Scorpion and Sub-Zero that have, like, way more weight within this universe.
Yeah.
And, like, they have a whole history, but then, like, the newer games is like, well, we're friends now. So... But in terms of the movie, it's interesting because, if I'm understanding correctly, it's its own unique storyline, but the real twist is that the protagonist is a brand new character that has never been in Mortal Kombat. So, the plot of the movie is essentially...
Are you going to spoil it?
Oh, yeah, spoilers
spoiler
for this
warning.
one.
Yeah.
So,
I don't care, but it's fine.
Yeah. And, like, to be fair, like... I guess for, like, a quick heads up, you can always, like... The opinions here are basically going to be very identical to what I put on Letterboxd. So usually, like, my input feels like I'm kind of just, like, reiterating and highlighting what I say on my Letterboxd page. So if you just want to read it and make it much more concise, you can go there. So, chill.
Of course.
Yes. But anyway, so... The plot is that there's this MMA fighter named Cole Young. Very original. It turns out that he is the descendant of the original Scorpion, like, from the game. And then, Shang Tsung, one of the main bad guys of the game, sends Sub-Zero to kill Cole. But then Cole just happens to team up with, like, a bunch of the other Mortal Kombat characters, namely Sonya Blade and Jax and all that. Eventually, they all run away to Raiden's temple, and they train there. There's a bunch of fighting. And then more of Shang Tsung's bad guys come up, and then they fight, and then essentially it's just they get his power, and then they confront Sub-Zero, because, like, Sub-Zero's kind of the main bad guy in this movie, even though Shang Tsung is the bigger threat, but I'll get into that. And then essentially you just meet the characters, and it's supposed to be kind of like the first movie in this franchise.
Okay.
So
they have. I did read up on this. They were planning on 5 movies, right?
yes. So to my understanding, Warner Brothers was very overt when they were saying this, but in the promotional material, they were saying if this first movie is a success, then they're going to make a franchise out of this. And
Fantastic Beast style.
Essentially, and I would say watching this, you could definitely see a lot of, like, that mentality being placed through the movie, because the way it ends is very, very, like, loose end, setting up for a, like, series of films, not like a one and done.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, for, like, mild spoilers to support this, Kung Lao, one of the main characters, air quotes, dies. Every main villain aside from Shang Tsung dies. And then the final shot of the movie is just a gigantic, ambitious tease for Johnny Cage, my favorite MK character. So...
Would you say the whole movie is kind of like one of those terrible blockbuster things where it just, like, spends the whole time setting up a franchise, or is it just the end?
I would say I feel most of those instances are all at the end, but I would say, like, you can kind of feel that influence because, as I'll explain later, like, the entire movie's dialogue is just, we have to explain this universe verbally to you.
Yeah.
Or we have to give you a comedy line or action scene so, like, you're distracted.
Oh, you know what that reminds me of? It's unrelated, but like I watched Artemis Fowl recently, and that was literally all the movie was.
Yes.
But like minus the actual parts where you would have like a joke or an action sequence. It was exhausting.
No.
Terrible.
But yeah.
Anyway.
So, on the actual movie itself, I don't think it was good. Again, I don't have a huge connection to Mortal Kombat, but I played 11, so, like, I have a very, very loose grasp at what, like, the main characters are. I don't think the narrative was that good, because it was very just, again, the whole screenplay was just, we have to explain the universe, or the rules, or the characters, or we have Kano make a one-off line. And, like, it's interesting because I wish with these, like, video game movies is that they would take their own creative liberties and, like, kind of push away from the source material, but still keep the source material in mind. Like, an example that comes to mind is, a plotline in the movie is that once Cole meets Sonya Blade, it turns out Sonya actually has Kano in captivity, and, like, Kano actually agrees to help them. But it feels weird because, like, he's very, he doesn't want to, he's very unwilling. And he's like, oh, great, I'm going to have to, like, team up with these people. And so, but, like, he's just, like, still willing to go along, so it's like he won't make up his mind. But then, eventually, he becomes a twist villain, and he's like, okay, now I'm the bad guy now.
Oh, there's a twist villain.
Yeah, because, I'll explain that later, but... Essentially, because of a thing that happens in the film, he turns against the good guys and, like, starts working for Shang Tsung. Which is weird because, as I understand in the video games, he's basically, like, a freelancing bounty hunter that, like, you can hire. But, historically speaking, like, he's always against Sonya and Johnny Cage and Jax and all that. So, I thought it was just a weird direction they said to say, okay, I get it was to, like, give him a connective tissue to be a part of this narrative. But it just felt weird from a game standpoint because it's like, it kind of would have made sense to have him, like, kind of be a hired help. Because a weird thing I have with this movie is that it has very weird introductions with the characters. Like...
In that it's just, like, out of nowhere?
Well, because it's weird, because it's like, you start with Cole Young, and, like, it's natural enough. But then, like, he runs into Jax after an MMA fight he loses. And then he's like, okay, go here to meet Sonya Blade. And then you get introduced to Sonya Blade and Kano. And then they're like, okay, we got to go to Raiden's temple. And they just happen, like, Kano's like, I can call a friend and he can take us there. It's very, very, like, convenient. And just, like, flimsy. Yeah. But then it's weird because then you get to the Raiden temple. And then you get introduced to Kung Lao, Liu Kang, and Raiden all at once. And, like, it just feels so weird from an outsider perspective because, like, compared to the video game, they don't feel like they have the same amount of, like, weight as characters. Because, to my understanding, in Mortal Kombat 11, like, Liu Kang was taking up the mantle of Raiden as, like, the lead protector of Earth. But, like, in the movie, he's just like, okay, like, I'm just a student under Raiden, and, like, I don't have a whole lot of importance. So... It just feels like it has a lot of weird disenfranchising with the games itself, but it's still very much connected to the games. I think a worst case is, like, there's the part where Shang Tsung starts recruiting a lot of villains. 2 of them are just, like, actual generic, have never been in the game, like, one-off characters that die, like, 5 minutes after they get introduced. But, like, it's weird because they introduced Cabal, who, as I understand, is another big character in Mortal Kombat. But he's like, okay, yeah, here he is. And, like, knowing he has history in the games, it feels, like, so disingenuous to just say, okay, here he is, no backstory whatsoever. And again, like, they all die at the end, so there's, like, a real lack of, like, weight in these movies. Like, you don't really feel a whole lot of tension.
You don't really care.
Yeah, like, there's one fight where it's, like, Kung Lao gets attacked by someone, but then, like, he immediately kills her in, like, a minute. And so you kind of wonder what was the whole point of that, aside from essentially fan service, because in the most cringe part of the movie, after he kills the one character, he puts his hat back on and he says flawless victory. And then I'm like, but why?
Dang.
Yeah, I didn't say this in my Letterboxd review, but they shoehorn in a lot of like game references,
game quotes or something.
Yeah, like when one person like got killed, they said fatality, and I'm like, but why? And then there was like after the end of one fight when a character died, they said like Liu Kang wins, but there was no announcer, so I was very confused by that.
That's one thing that I will compliment. The only one that I've seen is the original movie from the 90s.
Yes.
And that does kind of sound worse than the 90s version, because how it plays out in that one, if I'm remembering correctly, is just that that movie is very atonal. It's very campy, but it's trying to play it straight, so it becomes Uncanny Valley, and it doesn't work. But the way they work like game quotes into the movie is by actually having it take place in the context of a Mortal Kombat tournament.
Yeah.
So you actually have an announcer overseeing it and like spewing out like the quotes, like flawless victory, good job.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because like the movie goes out of its way at the start to say, because like according to the game lore itself, it's like there's like 4 realms within Mortal Kombat, and then every now and then they hold like the fighting tournament called Mortal Kombat. And the rule is if one realm loses 10 times in a row, whoever they lose to then gets to like invade the losing realm.
Oh, wow.
And so like in the game, at least like in the first one, I believe, like Earth was basically down 9 tournaments. So then the story mode is like you have to stop Earth losing the 10th tournament in a row. And the weird thing is the movie goes out of its way to explain that, but within the whole movie itself, the tournament is never a narrative plot thread. Like that's just kind of world building they put on the side for a future movie. Yeah.
So like stopping Earth from losing the 10th tournament doesn't come back into play later. Like the conflict just ends up being something else.
Yeah, the whole conflict is like Shang Tsung tries to attack Raiden's temple, but then Raiden and everyone that shows up is like, no, we're gonna stop you.
That's a weird.
Yeah,
one.
it's a very weird organizing structure, and honestly speaking, like it's very kind of softly put together. I would probably say the one bit that I really do like is every now and then they do find ways to kind of like have more natural ways to weave in video game elements into the movie. Like,
yeah.
The one standout scene I always remember is that there's like a training montage at the temple where it's like different characters are like doing practice fighting, if you will. But then...
Okay.
So there's one fight with Liu Kang against Kano, but the joke is that in the original Mortal Kombat, like one of the easiest ways to beat your opponent is to just like keep doing the sweep attack with the kick. And then like you just keep stunning them, and then you just instantly kill them by just like keep doing like a sweep attack, and then you win the fight.
Oh, do they do that?
Yeah, and like in a way they find a way to like actually kind of like naturally reincorporate that. So it's like the fight starts, and then Liu Kang immediately like sweeps Kano, and then Kano like gets back up, and then he like sweeps again. So then Liu Kang's waiting, and then Kano jumps, but Liu Kang doesn't do anything, and he's like, oh crap, and then he gets sweeped again. So like in a way,
that's kind of funny.
Yeah, so like there's stuff like that makes it more fun to like watch, and like it finds a way to kind of poke fun at Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
But it's a shame because like it's such trivial side content compared to the main stuff that it kind of makes me wish it had a much more irreverent take on Mortal Kombat and kind of just making fun of it a little bit more while still like telling a Mortal Kombat story.
Yeah.
But you don't really get a whole lot of that in this movie because it's told much more like straight-faced and serious.
Mm-hmm. The general impression I got from it, like based off of what you're saying, is that it's just like franchise build up first and not done particularly well at that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then kind of haphazard, like stopping the bad guy story second.
Right. Well, another weird plot element I haven't really explained is that the movie also like has a Sub-Zero Scorpion rivalry kind of a deal going.
Is that what the opening like? Yeah, I know the movie opens in like the 1600s.
Yeah, exactly.
During
the opening
like some sort of dynasty.
Yeah, the opening scene is essentially Sub-Zero kills the original Scorpion's entire family, and then Scorpion himself. But
okay, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, but then it's weird because then like you see in the trailer like Scorpion and Sub-Zero are in the main fight, right?
Sure.
So apparently in the movie, like Scorpion just comes back even though he has no screen time. He's like, okay, now like I'm getting my revenge. And so then the main fight is essentially Scorpion and Sub-Zero with Cole Young giving like an assist every now and then. But I take issue to that because you don't spend a whole lot of time with that Scorpion, so a lot of the buildup feels undercut because you don't have too much investment in the original Scorpion, so...
Yeah, it's just like one fight, right?
Yeah, it's just the one fight in the frozen MMA cage. And then, like, Cole Young helps out every now and then.
That's like some sort of game, like RPG you would play, where you beat up one bad guy, and then later in the game, that same bad guy comes back like, "Oh, you are my arch nemesis, and I have come to kill you." And you're like, "Dude, we fought once. What are you talking about?"
Well, sorta, but the problem is that it's already a pre-established franchise with Mortal Kombat, so, like, the diehard fans are gonna be like, "Oh yeah, like, this totally makes sense."
Yeah.
But within the context
yeah,
of the film,
just
from, like,
because,
an outsider standpoint, like, you're gonna get more of that feeling where it's like, okay, so you killed him and now he came back, but you didn't do a whole lot to establish their rivalry. So...
Yeah. I don't think reliance on, like, stuff in the games should be kind of an excuse, if that makes sense, because I want
Yeah.
to say that whenever you're translating that onto a movie, the implication is that you're taking all of the necessary knowledge that one would need to know and putting it into the movie, so if someone goes, "Hey, how does this work?" They'll be so immersed in terms of what's going on with writing that, like, actually incorporates points of the game or book into it well.
Yes.
So that you don't have to, like, even if you are a fan who knows what, like, the original story is, you can still enjoy it, while the person who doesn't know what the original property is on board still, just because of how well presented it is in terms of, like, context and the necessary information, I guess.
Right, yeah. Well, it's interesting because the thing is, like, in the game, like, everyone, like, has crazy powers and all that, because, you know, like, back in the 90s, they were doing, like, crazy stuff with, like, the characters. Like, because...
Were indeed.
In the game, Kano has, like, a robot eye, basically, and, like, it can shoot lasers and all that, but at the start of the movie, like, he doesn't have any, like, robotics at all. But then they get into, like, a one-off fight with Lizard, who instantly dies in that fight, which is weird.
There is a lot of instant death.
Yeah, like, most of these fights don't really take that long. Like, the longest fight was the Scorpion Sub-Zero one at the end. But, like, and that one was, like, 10, 12-ish minutes.
Okay.
But I think, like, most fights in this movie, outside of that one, I don't think there's one that really lasts more than 5 minutes. Like...
Oh, yeah?
They're really short. They just don't have a lot of flow to them, and, like, someone... Because the problem is most of these characters within this universe are, like, one-off characters that you can't have a whole lot of fighting and all that. So, like, they die super quickly. And so, again, there's not a whole lot to invest in. But an interesting thing I found when they are adapting the movie to the film was... to explain why characters still have, like, their powers, apparently they do this whole rule where it's like, if you have, like, a tattoo, which is the Mortal Kombat logo somewhere, then, like, you can have, like, superpowers, basically.
Okay.
So,
was that how it was in the game, or no?
Not in the game. I don't remember, because, like, they don't explain it. It was like everyone just has their own powers for their own reason. But then, like, that's to explain how, because, like, what happens is, in the Kano Lizard fight, Kano gets his, like, right eye scratched out and he can't see out of it. So then, but then it's explained that he has the tattoo, so then later in the movie, like, he gets really angry over, like, a fight during dinner, and then apparently he just, like, shoots a laser beam out of his eye, and he's like, okay, that's my power. And then eventually that's what kind of leads him to his twist into the villainy, which I just think is, like, a really weird setup all in all together. So, but then it's weird because then Sonya Blade doesn't have a tattoo, and then he's like, yeah, you're not one of the chosen ones, so you can't do anything, so just go work with Jax, who has robot arms. But then in the third act, the whole third act is basically, okay, all the good guys get into one-on-one fights with all the bad guys like it's a video game. And I'll get into that because I think that's another one of my favorite things with how they handled this movie. But Sonya fights Kano, and then eventually Sonya kills Kano in the end. But then after the fight, she gets a tattoo? So then I'm just kind of confused because I'm like, how do you, like, can you just get a tattoo on your own? Are there, like, prerequisites to getting a tattoo? Like, it just feels very flimsy. So...
Yeah, just tacked on.
Yes. But, speaking of the third act, the one thing I liked was kind of the structure for the conflict, because it did kind of just feel like a straight-up video game. Because the second act ends with the heroes on the run from Raiden's temple, but then they all teleport to the White Room in the Matrix, and they're like, okay, hang on. All we have to do is just kill them one-on-one, and then we take on Sub-Zero and we win. But then I like that because it feels like you're in like a fighting select screen, and since like, Jax, you fight this guy here. He's like, okay, and then like he steps through a portal, and then the other guy steps in, and it feels like you're getting to the start of an actual like fight within the video game. So I just kind of like that setup there, because I feel like if you play more into the video game elements and not just try to be a generic action movie that just so happens to be Mortal Kombat, I feel like you could do something a little bit better, give it more identity.
Yeah, just like one of the instances where they really tried to integrate like kind of a feeling or central idea of the game more into like kind of what was going on. Yeah,
like give it more representation of what Mortal Kombat is instead of it being an action movie, I would say. But yeah, so...
Man.
I mean... Because there's just kind of a lot, and I feel like I do a better job kind of pinpointing everything in my Letterboxd review more, which I spent, oddly, a lot of time writing.
Well, a great author such as yourself requires a lot of nuance and depth that can only be met with the appropriate amount of time in order to voice your thoughts.
Yes. So...
the one thing that I kind of found appealing, that I appreciated despite not really despite not really playing Mortal Kombat, was kind of how violent it was compared to how relatively tame the 90s one was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it felt more in spirit of the games in that sense.
Yeah, that's fair, because, I mean, looking back on this movie, in terms of violence, I would say, like, it gets the job done, I would say. Like, It's not a super standout element, but...
Yeah, that's fair.
What you get, like, someone gets, like, sawed in half, and you get to see part of that. You get Jax, both of his arms get exploded off with ice, so... compared to the game, though, like, the game already kind of does that and more. So, but at least I'm glad the movie didn't kind of like chicken out and try to like go tame with the violence. I'm glad that like it actually yeah, like I'm glad that I would say most of the R rating went to like blood and violence and not like excessive swearing or something. Even though there is I wouldn't say there's a crazy amount of swearing in this film, but it's there. So it's just kind of a shame, though, because with the ending, it does really kind of undercut everything. Because
it does? Just like because like it's just like they're not really dead. It's
exactly, because like literally after everyone dies, they confront Shang Tsung and he's like, no, I'm going to run away. But friendly reminder that like I can just revive these people and they still work for me.
Oh yeah.
So like, and that's kind of what happens verbatim. Because why he explains that, like, you view the corpses of all the villains that died and then they just disintegrate, and he's like, they'll be back. Come on. So
what's going on here? And then
they tease Johnny Cage, and then I'm like, okay, so obviously you want a sequel.
Of course I want a sequel.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, and like even going past that, you kind of have like, the whole plot point where like the guy can't intervene because it's against like the rules of the gods.
Well, to be fair, that's kind of what happens in the games already.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, like he can like you say he like takes them to different realms so they can fight them.
Yeah, like he can't like get directly involved because like his power level is insane, but like the movie goes out of his way to explain, like, he can teleport anyone at his will. Raiden, that being, I should mention. But I think in the games, they do make it very explicit that Raiden himself can't get involved in the tournament itself.
I see.
So, I think that's fair. But, again, I wouldn't really praise the movie a whole lot for that, so...
Is there a different example of some sort of adaptation, be it a video game or something else, that you would say does this better, that you would want to leave us with? Unless you have anything else to say.
Is there anything that the movie does better adaptation-wise compared to the video games?
No. Just, like, based off of the general criticisms you've given, is there, like, an example of a film that does do those, or, like, does do what it's trying to do better without those criticisms that you would want to point out, or
like adapting material into a movie?
Yeah. Just like in general, without making it confusing or kind of haphazard.
I mean, one that definitely springs to mind for me is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. That's one of my favorite movies, which is a adaptation of a graphic novel into film. I just really like it because it's directed by my favorite director, Edgar Wright. I really enjoy his visual style. Plus, doing a little bit of, like, looking into the actual story itself. Like, it felt like Edgar Wright found a way to write a story that very naturally weaved in a lot of the stuff from the book itself. But, because an example that always springs to mind for me is that in the book, it's the main character, Scott Pilgrim, is called the best martial artist fighter in all of Toronto. But the movie never tells you that at all, but you see that visually. Like, in every fight he gets in, like, he has a lot of martial arts skills, but there's nothing in the movie that would make you lead you on to believe that. But the way that Edgar Wright visually handles that, it makes it feel believable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So... like, that's a much better example of adapting something to film, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. I just thought that was worth asking.
Yeah.
Just like a sort of general way to leave it off on.
Yeah, that's fair. So, I wouldn't say I had a terrible time watching Mortal Kombat, but I wouldn't say it was a good... Yeah, I wouldn't really say it's a good movie, and I would leave it at 1.5 stars out of 5.
Oh, wow. All right.
So.
Get real.
It is real. Oh. They made it.
Say it isn't so. All right, well, that really is the last big topic. Thank you for taking all of that time to tell me about Mortal Kombat. I don't think I'm going to see it, but I appreciate all of the effort you put into it. And your Letterboxd review.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
It was very funny to watch them not... Yeah, that is weird, just looking at that. They have, like, every main character that you would know except Johnny Cage.
Except Johnny Cage, yeah. That is weird.
Which is obvious sequel bait to me, so I find that disappointing. But, well, we'll just see it in the next movie.
How else you gotta do it?
Oh, well.
Well, with that, I believe we are approaching the end of our first arc of private screening.
This is it. We've done it.
The last thing I just want to touch on before we really peace out is just general impressions of the current state of streaming services, because we've kind of gone over the Oscars. Movie theaters is kind of a deadbeat at this point, but where do you see the streaming services going in the future? Like, what do you think we'll talk about in the coming episodes?
I mean, I would still say what we said in the past episodes is pretty much still applicable today, but I would say it's still kind of a wild card. More of them could be weeded out. More of them could come out. They could rise. They could decline. We just got to let time pass, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I do think it's worth mentioning that maybe with the whole Oscar thing, with most of the nominees being on streaming services, that might be another extra kick. Yeah, especially now with I watched The Mitchells versus the Machines recently. That was also a big draw. I think that's already the most viewed or like the #1 movie right now on Netflix.
Oh wow!
I kind of think, despite the lessening of COVID, I still think streaming services might find a way to be consistently relevant, even as theaters open up more. Like, I still want to say that we're gonna get more rapid integration as COVID becomes less of a concern. The more rapid integration of theaters back into the mainstream, if that makes sense.
Got it.
Mhm.
Yes. I would agree with you there.
Hyped for Knives Out sequels and Spider-Man stuff being on Netflix? I haven't heard anything new, but
me neither.
That's something I want to talk about someday if we get to it.
Yeah, eventually, whenever more updates happen there. So
yeah, do you think?
I mean, I was thinking like, there's not going to be a whole lot of stuff coming out until like July, because that's when Space Jam comes out. So
July, you can say that again.
yes. So Space Jam 2, personally, looking forward to it.
It's gonna.
I think it's
going to
be a 1-star, honestly.
Yeah, I'm thinking 2 out of 10.
1 star for epic.
Ooh, indeed. I think it's going to be worse than Ralph Rex the Internet. That's besides the point.
Oh.
I guess is there any particular direction that you want to take this podcast from now on? Obviously, we all want to get better, but like subject-wise,
of course.
I just see this going on until either COVID goes away or we just run out of things to talk about. Is there any direction you want to take this in? Just to like kind of think about as we leave the first 3 episodes?
I mean, I think one thing could definitely be what our main movies that we talk about are.
Yeah.
Because,
yeah, right now, like, the running theme is HBO Max, but, like, once that goes away.
And, like, modern, current releases, so... And I think it'll be interesting if, like, maybe we do episodes where, like, we just watch an older movie and talk about it for a change.
Yeah, maybe on its
instead of modern
anniversary
stuff
or something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or, see if we still do modern stuff, try older stuff. But yeah, like, this has just been kind of a nice little starting point for us, so...
Something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
that's how it be.
I guess the last thing before we really hit it up or end it and really begin.
Questions are again.
Meat and potatoes.
Questions are still open. You can comment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We haven't like really.
That's just another PSA.
Again.
The audience member.
Yes,
you can comment.
The viewer, the listener.
Listening, watching, observing, absorbing. You can literally ask us your question, and we might answer it if we want to.
We might actually answer it.
But you could be the first person.
Mm-hmm. It can happen.
Our tiny podcast.
Local podcast, of course.
Right. Homegrown.
Yeah, I guess. Have you been able to apply the podcast skills that you've acquired anywhere else? I've already said this, but I personally use this microphone and Audacity, not to mention, in other projects like school. I now find this microphone helpful when recording things for school projects, and I think the podcast overall has given me a better understanding of using audio in a way that and like organizing and editing audio too, to like produce a condensable whole that I can present to the modern world.
Yes. Personally, I mean, the microphone has been nice. Just getting used with my computer every now and then. But I guess the one thing it's helped me with is just kind of being able to talk and kind of discuss and analyze my thoughts with movies and all that.
It's gotten me more comfortable with my voice personally. Just listening through this again, editing it, I feel less like annoyed with like my voice.
No. So that's always good.
Always good. Well, no matter what happens, no matter where this ends up going, if you do listen to these,
we at least have these 3 episodes
and take the trouble to like tune in, we really want to emphasize how much we appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts.
Indeed.
Thank you. Like we're literally just doing this for fun, so the fact that you listen means a lot to us.
Yes.
So yeah.
We appreciate it, and we appreciate you.
And I appreciate you, Grant.
You. And you, to you, Sam.
Aw, thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Well, yeah.
So it begins. Welcome.
So it is written.
To Private Screening.
I literally watched it. It literally said Miss Brisby and the Secret of Man.
Oh yeah? I will be the judge of that.
Well, then you judge it.
I will judge it just as fairly as I judge the chicken opening, and you will still be wrong.
Well, I was right, Sam. I need you to stop.
It doesn't
denying
change the
it.
fact that
I
they did not
do
say.
know what I
There's
need to
no
say,
way the
that it is
Academy
a
Awards are
good
listed in.
opening. Literally everyone agrees with me on this.
You're just bandwagoning. That isn't like